You're listening to a Rev FM production podcast. Welcome to Pastors Live, the show that discusses things of the Bible and current events for people who love to laugh. And now, the hosts who answer questions with more questions. It's Pastors Dave, Ty, Shane, and the other guy.
Sick of food waste day.
Sick of food waste.
I like that. I don't like wasting food.
It's the day after the Super Bowl.
It's a day after the Super Bowl. I don't like wasting food. Yeah. It's like that was way too many chips than yesterday.
Yeah, I know, right?
Hey, so by the way, I just want to say congratulations to the refs. So congratulations.
Wow.
Big
question. So I'm not a big football guy. I'm not a big Super Bowl guy. Our small group did have a Super Bowl party yesterday, and the food was amazing, as our small group always puts out great food. But what's your favorite Super Bowl snack, you guys?
Wings.
Okay.
What is it?
Wings.
Wings.
I got bad
Wings.
memories.
Sorry.
Bad memories.
Wings.
So so wings.
Pizza rolls.
Pizza. I'm a real chips and
Doritos.
salsa guy. I'm just a simple
Doritos,
chips and
of course.
salsa.
Yeah.
Doritos.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. What about you, Ty?
You know what? I would say my favorite, and I can't.
I'm not saying you can or can't eat it now. But just what would be your favorite?
No, honestly, would be like a nacho flavored cauliflower chip.
Ooh,
wow, that's
interesting.
interesting.
Well, yeah, I can't really find them anymore. I mean, I used to get them. I can't.
I never
find
even
them
heard of
anymore.
them.
Yeah, they were actually made out of cauliflower, and there were chips that I could eat, and I liked them. But no, if I just had to sit and go for it, I'm gonna say probably an Arnold Palmer and really spicy Doritos.
Yeah,
That
I'm a
would be
big.
my-
As you know, I'm a big
Doritos.
Arnold Palmer guy. If you go out to dinner with Dave, he's getting an Arnold Palmer to drink. Right? I love Arnold Palmers.
I
don't know why they taste so much better at the restaurant. I cannot make them as well as they do at the restaurant.
You probably don't use as much sugar.
Maybe that's
Because you
I
don't
do a lot of sugar.
Yeah, because you don't do a lot of sugar.
I do when I go out to eat and I get my Arnold Palmer. I know it's
Yeah,
sugar.
that's like
Wow.
sugar. Yeah, so I don't know. I have some. So I worked at a restaurant that made wings, hot wings.
Oh,
And so the busiest day of the year for us was Super Bowl.
Of course. Yeah,
And so
that makes
most
sense.
of the for years and years, like I kind of became a non-football fan because for years I didn't watch football because every time it was playoffs or every time it was like Super Bowl Sunday, everybody worked.
yeah.
And we delivered and we did all those things. But I'll tell you what, man, people order, 200, 300 wings. So Gary, I totally
Seriously.
get that. Like, oh yeah,
So,
like
I
hey, how
wonder-
many orders? We need 15 orders of super hot wings or
Exactly.
something like that, and we're just like,
And
oh, wow.
I don't want to be political. I'm really not being political. I'm just wondering the whole chicken flu thing and or the bird flu thing, chicken flu, bird flu, and they killed like 100 million
excuse me.
chickens. Like, are wings really expensive right now? I mean, I don't do wings, so I don't know.
I know
Are they like
up.
super?
They're not too
expensive?
bad.
Yeah.
no. What do you think they did with the birds that?
Well, I
were
don't know
sick?
because the egg. I mean, I know they burned them, so I guess you can make
Thank
wings
you for
out
laughing.
of them.
I was
Yeah.
But I know
somebody had to laugh at this.
Listen, my friends in California, believe this or not, this is a true story. I mean, they're sending me pictures. They're paying $39 a dozen.
Yeah, the
for
eggs are expensive.
Whoa.
$39 a dozen for eggs.
A dozen.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We can go to
five.
Winco and get them for $3.90.
No,
like
not
that.
right now. You can't. At Winco, they're like $6.
Oh, they
$7.
do-
Yeah,
changed
they're
it.
up right now.
Everything's up right now
The five
because,
dozen that
you
we
don't
get
eat-
the box is like $25, $26.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Costco. Got to say Costco, but
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we got that at Sam's.
But here's an interesting thing. I learned I can't like scramble eggs, things like that. My body doesn't respond to them really well. That makes me kind of not feel good. So I can have hard boiled eggs. So like when I go, I only get eggs like every other week. So apparently the last time I got eggs. So this coming week I'll be surprised.
Yeah.
At the cost of eggs. But it's I honestly, if we could have chickens in my neighborhood, that's the thing about HOAs.
Yeah, me too.
It's like you can't have.
we can have them at our place.
Yeah, we
Can you
can't.
really?
You can have
Yeah.
5.
Where you live?
Yeah, where I live.
No, I did not.
You
know
can
that.
have,
Yep,
but
that
you can have up
surprises
to
me.
5.
Yeah, I think up to 5 or 6.
Yeah. Lori and I have been talking
And no
about
roosters.
We've been we have a space. Well, yeah, of course you can't have a rooster. In our space, we've got this really great place we could put a chicken coop, and so we're like, maybe we should just get the chicken coop, build the run, and just when the world comes to a screeching halt, then we could just call our friends that have chickens, and we could just bring some chickens over. But
because we don't have an HOA, and we're kind of it's kind of considered county. So
yeah.
Well, there you go. Anyway, folks, Super Bowl is behind us, thank God.
Off to spring training.
It is
Spring.
baseball, baby.
Baseball season.
Woohoo!
Okay, favorite part of spring training. What is it, guys? Because I'm not a baseball guy, I got to own it. I don't know, but
Well, it is interesting because some of the guys that are in the bigs during spring training are working on things, and you find them in very unusual places. I always find that interesting. Right, they're not always the headliners, so to speak.
Yeah, it's interesting for me is to see the new guys coming up that are trying to make the team and
They're playing hard.
They're playing hard, and it's really interesting to watch, even though the games don't count. But the guys that are out there playing are wanting to make that roster, man.
Yeah, so are there more injuries in the pregame because guys are trying to make the team, or do they careful so they don't get themselves out?
No, I would say if there is an injury, no one's talking about it, unless it's one of those big names.
Yeah, the stars aren't playing, but maybe an inning or two. That's it. They're just getting their work in.
And the guys that are trying to make it, they're not telling anybody anything. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. He has a broken hand. I'm good.
Yeah, but your nose just came. You just got hit in the nose. Rub some dirt in it. Let's go. Yeah.
Well, I know that generation of people. Rub some dirt in it. You'll be fine.
They don't do that as much now.
But today is an interesting day, and I thought I was like sick. That it's in quotes, by the way. It's sick of food waste day.
Yeah.
So I have some very, very strong opinions about this, and so I'm gonna let you guys kind of talk about this for a second before I jump in on this one. But I mean, let's talk about that. Are we talking about like food waste in your own kitchen, or what do you guys mean about food waste?
Well, we live in a world where food insecurity is a huge issue.
Yeah, that's why it frustrates me. Yeah.
Say it again?
That's why it frustrates me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, of course, we live in a nation, here you go. I'll try not to be political, but we live in a nation that has gone off the rails. We don't eat real food anymore, right? The wheat that you eat is not the wheat that your grandparents ate.
Nope, not at all.
Here in America.
Yep.
And so we've done all these things. Oh, look, we're producing more food. We're not producing more food. We're producing more non-food. And the proof is in the pudding. Look at the obesity rate. Look at me, right? So this is why I'm having to deal with stuff right now with my doctors and realize, hey, you've got to start eating real food, whole food, the right food, real food. Even in the confirmation hearings last week with RFK, I mean, people were going ballistic, and he just started reading the ingredients list.
Right. That's all he was doing.
Here's this franchise. Here's their French fries in our country. Oh, look, there's 26 ingredients. Same franchise across the pond. Oh, look, they have 4 ingredients.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
That's all that.
And so, yeah, we're in trouble. We're in trouble with we're not eating food. We're not producing food. Yeah. And so even when I lived in Nebraska, and we have a lot of listeners in Nebraska, and I love Nebraska. I love Nebraskans, my Husker friends. But everybody knows, like when I was at the university there, our students did come on, David, an experiment. They took an ear of GMO corn and an ear of real corn and put it out in the tree on a board for the squirrels. We had squirrels and hares all over our campus. And the next day we went out, and the cob of the real corn was right down to the nubs, right down to the cob, the entire ear of GMO corn. There were 2 kernels that were bitten off of it, and the 2 kernels were sitting on the board. The squirrels would not eat the thing. They're like, that's not food.
That's not corn.
Yeah.
No. Well, and that's what's really, really sad is that we have a lot of food that's genetically altered for crazy reasons. Yep. But one of the things about food waste for me, and food waste to me is when, in order to keep up, prices or things like that, orchards will dump tons of apples, tons of pears, tons of, and there's no reason we should, if it is edible, in other words, if it's food, it should be given away to those that are in need. Nothing makes me crazier than we have that big apple tree in front of the church, and nothing makes me crazier than watching those apples hit the ground. I'm like, we need to. They could go. They could go somewhere.
Wasting food.
And it's just, that's why somebody asked me, are we gonna take that tree down? I'm like, no, it produces food for God's people.
We take some of those apples every year.
Yeah, and I'm trying to encourage people, don't do that. Throwing food away is really disappointing to me. And
Me too.
we experienced something I thought was really interesting. We had a food bank. And we were responsible for, and we were working with the local grocery store, and they would throw food away that was perfectly good, and then they would say, "Well, no, we can't give it to you because if we give it to you, nobody will come buy food." And we're like, "No, we're talking about giving it to people who can't afford to buy food,
people who aren't buying food."
They ended up putting padlocks on their dumpsters.
Yeah.
After our conversation with them, because they were afraid we were going to come take the food out.
Or
of the
that
dumpster.
people were going to do that.
Oh, no,
But I'm just saying,
yeah,
right?
But the issue is, and so you start thinking, we do throw away food, and that really breaks my heart.
And our government back in the day, I can't speak for what's happening right now. I have no idea. But back in the day, when our government was subsidizing farmers to either not plant and grow or to let whole crops, the whole harvest, go to waste. We'll subsidize you. What'd you make last year? I made this much last year. We'll match it. Let your crops go to waste. Evil, absolutely evil. You can't do that. You absolutely can't.
I'm wondering now. I mean, we're living in a world where every penny, every decision's being looked at under a microscope.
Thank goodness
to
for
the
that.
chagrin of some people.
Yeah.
And to the blessing of others. But it's like you have to ask that question. Like, we could feed the world. I mean, we really could. I mean, and we have. I mean, people talk about, well, we're overpopulated. So no. We just certain areas.
We're not.
We have so much farmland. And I remember doing a wedding, Dave, years ago. It was in central Utah. And I've been driving to this wedding for like an hour off the highway. And I got there, and there was all this beautiful, brand new farm equipment, but I wasn't going through any farms. And I was talking to the dad, and I said, "Hey, so what's up? Where's the farm?" And he said, "Oh, once you got off the highway, yeah, we were 2 hours on the other side, and we're 3 hours on this side. Like I was kind of in the middle of this side." And I said, "Well, why aren't you farming?" I said, "The government pays us more money than we make farming." Yeah. I said, "How many?" I mean, the amount. It was an obscene amount of acres that they had.
Right.
And I was thinking, in my mind, I was thinking, how many people could you feed? If you were just taking care of your land and doing your land. Yeah. And so food waste is something that I think we need to kind of really think about. I do food prep once a week now because I don't like food to go to waste. But I'll tell you what, if I have healthy food, it goes bad quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. That's
right. It's like if you have food that's if it's not rotting, it's probably not good food. And that's where you kind of sometimes you're like, would you rather go to the store 3 times a week so you eat healthy, or would you rather go to the store once every 2 weeks and eat out of boxes and bags and cans and things like that? Like you have to have those things. So I hope there is some change in that. And so
we do go to the farmers markets and
I love
there's the
farmers
one
market here.
local grower that sells. They have a produce stand every year, and we go there.
Oh yeah,
and get their apples and corn and they got all kinds of stuff. Tomatoes.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
So there you go.
So we do that.
Hey, so. Guys, take care of somebody who's hungry.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of eating healthy, right? We're looking at these emails. That's why we tell people, read your Bible, read your Bible, read your Bible. Yes, of course, there's other good books. Our friend Annabelle last week
we talked
brought
about that
up,
bit.
right? And it's like, why do we say that so much? Because there are books that are out there that are not good, healthy eating for you. So,
speaking of eating
so
healthy,
you have to really be discerning.
Yeah.
You have to use some discretion, right? Our friend Teresa from Idaho Falls, right here in town.
Hey, Teresa.
Hendrickson. Hi, Teresa. I love that she said she's thanking Gary, and I know Gary and Ty kind of work together on that. Thank you for playing the Schindler's List theme music behind the discussion on the Holocaust. Both brilliant and humbling. So kudos to Gary and Ty. Great choice there. That was wonderful.
Yeah. And Gary, Chad from Anderson from Pocatello, he says, war isn't the answer. I agree, but aren't we taught as Christians to follow and obey our country's leaders? Okay, there's a yes and a no, I think, in that moment. I think, obviously, Romans chapter 13, verses 1 through 8 are really clear, right? Yeah.
There, yeah.
So if our leaders
Insert us.
Sorry. I was like, it didn't make sense in my head. If our leaders insert us into war, we don't have much of a choice. Can the pastors give some biblical direction on this? First of all, that's a great question.
It's a very good question.
Because there is such a thing as being a conscientious objector. And so Hacksaw Ridge is a movie that Mel Gibson did that actually kind of speaks to that, what that looked like, to say, hey, I understand, but I'm not going to pick up a weapon, and so there is a point where, I always appreciate this one. I'll put it like this. I appreciate the fact that in the Old Testament, there are two different words for killing. One is the premeditated act of murder, which we find in the commandments, thou shalt not premeditatedly take someone's life. But then in Ecclesiastes, it says that there's a time to kill and a time, there's a time to live, a time to die, a time to kill, a time to be killed.
Yeah.
The idea of going to war. So, there is a difference. For me personally, I'm not the I'm going to go to war fanatic type. I would rather see people saved than destroyed. So that's difficult for me. But what do you guys think when you think about this? I mean, you think about the idea of like, hey, if we go to war, what does that look like?
Well, I mean, I had a soldier when I was in Florida, Crestview, that came. He was getting sent off to Iraq. It was right when the Iraq war started, right after 9/11.
So 91.
Yeah. No, it was 2000. It was after 9/11.
Oh, after 2000. Oh, sorry, 2000.
Yes,
sorry,
2001.
I was thinking of the first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking, okay.
So he was being shipped off, and he came, and I was the pastor there. I mean, that was the only one there at the time, worship pastor. And so he needed to talk because he was very distraught on going and having to, pick up a weapon and having to shoot someone and take someone's life. So we had this long talk, and I won't go into details, but so I had to talk with him and go through this stuff. And it's just, when you're looking about war, I mean, to me, it's like if we're defending a country, if we're being harmed or whatever, then I see the need, and now for just going out and doing things that don't have any.
Yeah, we need more diamonds, or
right, exactly. If we're doing silly things,
the cost of gasoline to come down.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to be behind that. Like Ty said, I'm not one that's let's go to war.
No, that's right.
I'm not. I'm like you. I'm not looking for a chance to go out.
A reason to do it.
Right, a reason. Right. But if it's a chance to defend the country, defend
our
people and
defend
who those can't defend themselves.
I think part of it too is the difference between being violent and using force to deal with evil. And sometimes wars for like when you go to war, like when the United I had to think this through. So when we got December 7th, when we got drawn into World War II, the whole point there was. Nobody wanted to mess with us, but they gave it their best shot, and that was a mistake. They kind of woke up a sleeping giant when they did that. So you brought us into the fight. We went to war because we were drawn into the war.
Yeah.
We had no intention of entering the war. We were drawn into it, and we used force, and unfortunately, we used a lot of it to stop evil. I mean, that was we used force to stop evil, and there's a difference between using force to stop evil and just being brutally violent.
Yeah.
And in that sense, you think about defense, or you start a war, or you're defending, and it's because if you go out and you start something, that's wrong too. So it's a really interesting conversation about that. But I do feel, look, if our Congress declared war, which is their right to do so, if they declared war and we were at war, and soldiers go to war, they're honoring those that are in authority over them, and in doing so, they should be as lethal as possible when they go out to do that, to stop evil, to stop the atrocities that are happening. So
when you guys turned 18, the three of you, Gary, Steve, Ty, when you guys turned 18, did you register?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, I did.
Yep, selective service.
Selective service.
You still got to do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When one of my sons, when my oldest son called and said, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to enlist. It's my turn." The current at that time, the current administration was one that gave me some angst in terms of our relationship with Israel. And I told my son, I said, well, what are you going to do when your commander-in-chief tells you to turn your rifle on Israel? And he said, well, you have to do what the commander-in-chief says. I said, you do. Are you going to do that? Because now you have some decisions to make. Because if your commander-in-chief tells you to turn your rifle on Israel, I hope I've raised you well enough to lay your rifle down and say, whatever the consequences are, I'll take those consequences. I'm not doing it. And he really had some...
Had to struggle with that.
He struggled with that. And ultimately, we had an administration change. And boy, I tell you, Sylvia and I breathed a big sigh of relief. But it's something, Chad's absolutely right. You have to think about all of those things, and where do I stand as a Christian?
Yep.
And we all know in this studio, we've spoken to folks who have come back from war, and as born again Christians, many have struggled with that pain and that angst of, look, I took human life.
Yeah.
Not every soldier comes back with that, but there are many who have come back and they weren't quite ready to deal with that. Tim's book, How to Win a Gunfight, or Winning a Gunfight.
Yep.
I would highly recommend that to all law enforcement officers and all soldiers.
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
military.
Hey, listen, everybody, we have run out of time again today. Hey, listen, you're loved, your family, God bless you, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
You've reached the end of another episode of Pastors Live, a Rev FM production podcast. Thank you for listening. Submit your questions and comments by email to pastorslive@therev.fm. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review from your favorite podcast listening platform. Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon so you don't miss the next episode drop.